We had a saying in high school orchestra, if you want a blast, hang out with the brass. Good afternoon and welcome to On the Brass, where we are going to take a trip through the brass instruments or the brass section of the orchestra. And leading us today on the Brass through the brass section of the orchestra is Dr. Peter Archer. Hi, Dr. Peter Archer.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hi, it's great to have you here on the Brass today. Like I said, in high school orchestra, the brass section of band had quite the reputation. So is it true?
We are loud.
You guys are loud, you're brash because you're the best, because you're the brass. What'd you think?
Sure.
Yeah, you guys are loud.
Yes.
And the brass section of the orchestra, it just fills in everything, makes everything just kind of come together. And I'm so glad that we've got you here today on the Brass to discuss these great brass instruments. Just to introduce you to everybody, you are a teacher.
Yes.
Yes, right here in Queens.
In Queens.
Where you also live. But where do you teach?
Nathaniel Hawthorne Middle School, MS 74 in Bayside.
Yeah, go Lions, Tigers.
Hawks.
Go Hawks. Yay, yeah, go Hawks.
I'm the band director at MS 74.
Great, and there you've got an entire orchestra. You've got...
Yes, we have beginning band, intermediate band, advanced band. We have a fantastic jazz band. We have an orchestra.
Jazz band.
Yes.
That's exciting in middle school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We just celebrated our 60th anniversary last weekend.
60th anniversary of the school.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was able to bring back a lot of former students.
Former band members.
Yes, and they're professional musicians.
Wow,
Yes.
a lot of them, really.
Yes, and they performed. It was fantastic.
Ah, how awesome
occasion.
is that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So you guys have quite the reputation for being having a great music program in your middle school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, the arts are very important in at our school, and it's quite extensive for that matter. We have a drama program, we have a dance program, we have a fantastic chorus, and of course the instrumental music.
Yeah,
as well.
And it all plays out right in the brass. So let's take a musical instrument journey, if you will, through the brass section of the orchestra. A lot of times, the brass is just kind of relegated, I think, to the back seat, because people just like to look at how beautiful the stringed instruments are, like to watch them kind of moving together in some sort of congruency. But yet the brass section is beautiful too.
Sure, certainly is. Well, the brass section in the orchestra is made up of the trumpet, the French horn, the trombone, and the tuba.
Okay. And what is your first love? Your first instrument that you picked up was?
Yes, I'm a trumpeter. Yes.
Yeah. When did you start playing the trumpet?
Actually, it was quite some time ago. It was in middle school.
Right. Just like your students. Yeah.
Exactly, in 7th grade. And I've been playing since then.
Wow. And this trumpet, actually, you've owned this particular trumpet since
1977.
Wow. Yeah, so it's been with you for quite some time.
Certainly, yes.
But I think that also shows our viewers that if you make an investment in an instrument, it can stay with you for a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, and music is very important, actually, music has connections, according to research, you know, and that's why the connections is that it can help with math and science, and I think it's important that we give kids in the elementary schools and middle school music.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes your mind think differently.
Sure.
Yeah, and you're just open to so many other things when you're open to music, when you are playing music. So this was your first love.
Yes.
You found your first love in the 7th grade, and I tell you, you're faithful because you're still holding on to her. So.
Absolutely. Now, with the brass instruments, unlike the wood instruments, we use a cup-shaped mouthpiece.
Well, with the woodwinds, it's more of that wooden reed.
That's correct.
And so it's actually made of brass as well?
Yes, this is silver.
Yes.
And it is cup-shaped. And unlike the wind instruments, where we simply blow the air through the instrument and the reed vibrates, here we do what is called a buzz. That means a buzz is when the lips are together and the air goes through the lips, and the lips will do the vibrating.
Really?
Yeah, so
Okay, so,
something
that's
like-
a lot different
yeah.
than a woodwind.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because we don't have a reed, as I've indicated before. So a buzz is something like,
Right into there, and then
Exactly.
that carries through.
sure,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
And you're making music.
look at that.
And that's called the mouthpiece?
Yes,
Is that, yes.
it's a cup-shaped mouthpiece.
Okay.
Right.
And can you use the same mouthpiece on different instruments, or is that more specific to the trumpet?
Yeah, this is made for the trumpet.
Okay.
That isn't to say that other musicians don't experiment. And well, this would not fit on the tuba, obviously.
Okay. Really?
Yes, or nor on the trombone. But yes, this mouthpiece is made for the trumpet.
And what are the different parts of the trumpet?
Sure.
Walk us around it.
Sure. Well, the brass instruments in general have pistons
Right.
or valves, and
And those are those up and down things you press,
yes,
right?
and this enables a player to change notes, as I'll demonstrate shortly. Also, you see a flare-like bell at the end. Of
And
the
that's
instrument.
of all the brass
Sure, it's
instruments.
characteristics of all the brass, the flare-like bell, and they're tubings. If we were to stretch out the tubings, this would be about 4.5 feet long.
Okay, and it's all kind of compact.
It's coiled, yes,
Right.
sure. And also there are the corks, which enables a player to release moisture.
If moisture
from-
builds up, I guess,
Sure, from
as
the
you're
buzzing.
blowing, right?
Absolutely. And also on the brass instruments, to change the notes, because there are 3 valves, and one often wonders, well, how are you able to play so many notes with just 3
Yeah, you
valves?
would think it would just be 3 notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently not.
No, so there's a combination of things that we do on the brass instruments. We would tighten up our embouchure or the lips
Right.
for the higher notes. Right. And loosen the lips for the lower note,
Okay,
and so on.
right. It's as with other instruments, just letting more or less air through your mouth.
And
Yeah.
also relaxing and manipulating the muscle, the lip muscles.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can play, obviously, more than the 3 notes on there.
Sure,
Yeah.
certainly right. Correct. And when I push down each valve, I'm able to do the same thing.
Right.
Actually, a semitone, we say, lower. So for higher. And so on.
Okay.
So I'm able to change the notes with combination of valves, as well as tightening and loosen my embouchure.
Okay. I know that the mouthpiece is made of silver.
Yes.
Is the entire instrument made of silver or
No, this
more
is
of a
metal-
brass?
This is brass.
Okay.
Yes, and although we have instruments that are brass instruments that are gold plated,
Yes.
and silver plated, as the
piccolo.
trumpet, yeah.
But what's better? If you were going to invest in a brass instrument, do you want it to be all brass?
Generally speaking, the gold finish are much more expensive,
Right.
and the silver are expensive. This is the lacquer. We term this lacquer, or not as expensive as the silver or gold. Oftentimes, players would say, "Well, the silver trumpets are brighter in sound than
Yes.
the lacquer, and the lacquer the lacquer instruments tend to have a darker tone." That's, I guess, I don't know. That's a matter of preference.
Okay. Play us a little bit of something, please, on your favorite instrument.
Yeah, trumpets are generally known for playing fanfares.
Yes.
To announce the arrival of the king.
You think
or
of the
say-
da 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 da. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're known for that.
Sure. And it's used in the orchestra and in jazz as well.
Yes.
And in symphonic wind band playing, military bands as well.
Military bands, taps.
Taps, sure.
I noticed you didn't move your fingers at all during that.
No, tap is
Yeah.
generally played on what is called a bugle.
Yes.
A bugle has no valves, and the player changes the notes simply by tightening and loosening the lips.
Okay.
So if I don't push any valves, I can play taps in different key, actually. So I could do.
A completely different notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, just manipulating the muscle of the
In your
lips.
mouth. Oh, that's
correct.
exciting. And I
Right.
noticed that there's something wrapped around there. Is that leather? What is that?
Oh, this is just a grip for the valves. You know, it's cosmetics.
Okay.
And it just some of us use this just to give us a better grip. If we're sweating, for
Right.
example,
Yeah.
this would catch a sweat or something like that.
Did you ever play in a marching band when you were younger?
Yes, in Boy Scouts actually.
Oh my gosh.
I was a bugler in Boy Scouts.
Was that in
many years-
Brooklyn where
in
you grew
Brooklyn,
up? Yeah.
Yes, correct. And I was assigned to wake up the camp. You know?
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
occasionally I would hear, "Go back to sleep, just cut that out," you know, something like that.
Well, that is the job of the
And
bugler.
a shoe flying, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Just duck. So you've got good, good responses at that point.
Right.
So that is your first love,
Yeah.
the trumpet. She's beautiful. I love that you've had that since 1979.
Yeah.
That is great.
77. Actually,
77. That is great.
trumpet can play smooth also. It can play dirty. It
Yes.
can play.
Very reminiscent of a smoky room in a dark jazz club. Yeah, and then it can play a lot cleaner.
Smoother.
Yeah, smoother.
Uh,
Very smooth. Okay. So I know that's your first love, but you've
Okay.
got other loves
Sure.
as well. The piccolo, which is kind of a trumpet, only a little
Yes.
smaller.
Sure.
Right?
The piccolo trumpet enables the player to play the higher notes in the orchestra.
Yes.
The piccolo trumpet is actually 8 notes higher than the regular trumpet.
So an octave.
That's correct. And this one has 4 valves, unlike the standard trumpet with the 3. The 4th valve enables the player to play an extra lower tone, lower
Okay.
notes.
Yes, show us.
Sure. And thinking in terms of the size, so we would say that the pitch will be higher, right?
Here comes surprise. What is this piccolo made of?
This is silver.
The silver.
This is-
So
yes,
that's a
silver.
little bit more expensive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the piccolo trumpets are generally much more expensive than the regular trumpets. They're custom made, and this one actually pitches in B flat and in A.
Okay.
So we're able to change the pitch as opposed to using a different instrument. So
right.
it's sort of like 2 instruments
In one.
correct.
Would you find this in a standard orchestra or just as needed per piece?
As needed per piece, sure. And we have there's Bach uses a lot of higher notes in some of his pieces, and we would generally use this at the modern piccolo trumpet for pieces of 17th century Baroque pieces.
Nice. Okay. So that's a great one to have in your stable if you can have
Sure.
one. Yeah.
Sure,
if you're
certainly.
a trumpeter.
Certainly.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. I like the silver. It's just so compact and it's just pretty. It just seems like the type of instrument you would want to play.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. And so moving on
Sure.
to this beautiful horn, I really wanted to get here. This is just so incredible. The French horn.
Yes, this is the French horn, which received.
It's just so intricate. I'm sorry.
Sure, sure. I was about to say that for a few things with the French horn, it received its name from late 16th century hunting horns in France, which didn't have all of this interior valves
Right.
and tubing.
So they weren't as intricate.
No, certainly the player would have a strap and carry the horn on his shoulder, on his horse during hunting season.
Yes, and he would just, I guess, lead the charge.
Absolutely,
Is that
sort
okay?
of like the bugle,
Yes,
bugler
yes.
would play a fanfare.
And how is this instrument different from the others?
Oh, several ways, actually. The modern French horn has a really beautiful dark color, and the player places his hands inside the bell, which actually can manipulate the tone.
Sound.
Sure.
Yes.
The mouthpiece, we don't generally say the mouthpiece is cup shape. It's more of a cone shape.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. However, it is a brass instrument. It the same characteristic as the trumpet holds in terms of buzzing for the sound.
And already it sounds different just with the mouthpiece. Yeah.
Sure. So I would say that the buzz on the trumpet has more of a higher pitch.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
here's a cone-shaped French horn.
Its own distinct sound.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sort of deeper.
Yeah, richer.
Absolutely. And so now the horn, unlike the trumpet and other brass instruments, we don't have pistons or valves. We call this rotary. If the valves are rotary, they rotate. As you can see, when the player pushes the valves, they spin. So we say the rotary valves.
Unlike the others, which actually have those pistons you push down on. Yeah.
Absolutely. The sound is warm, dark, and for that reason, you would find the horn actually blend in with the woodwind section.
Really?
Sure.
Even though it's a brass?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And in the woodwind ensemble, you would find a French horn player.
Ah, okay. And so the fingering on this, you put your thumb through this little loop
yes,
here.
the thumb hook, yes, and then the pinky here.
And you would only use the 3 fingers?
Sure.
Okay.
Correct.
And then this other hand is always inside?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll give you a sample of the sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is beautiful. It sounds so much richer than the other instruments. Yeah.
Certainly. And special effects I can produce with the sound is manipulating my hand inside the bell.
Okay.
Find a lot of 20th century composers. They would
utilize that.
Yeah, all these special effects.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there right-handed and left-handed French horns, or is it just really the one hand?
This is it. No.
Okay.
It would be sort of awkward to
try and do it the other way, but they don't make them for the other hand at all.
Certainly not. No.
Okay. Just trying to keep the left-handers happy.
Okay. Thanks for trying. Appreciate that.
So that is just a beautiful instrument.
Sure.
If we were to uncoil this and lay this out end to end, about how long would it be?
About 19 feet.
Really?
Sure.
So much longer than the trumpet.
Trumpet's about 4.5 feet for the trumpet. Sure.
So that just shows your sound, your wind is traveling so much further in this instrument.
That's correct.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And so right behind the French horn is this beautiful instrument.
Yes. Well, this is the trombone.
Ah.
And
when did you start playing the trombone?
Actually, for my music education requirements, I had to pick up all of the brass instruments, all the wind instruments, and all the string instruments.
Yeah.
And
so at least in school, you've learned how. And what makes this instrument different?
Well, already you could see there's a big difference.
Yeah. It just in size.
In size, number one, there are no valves.
Yeah.
There are no valves, and the player is able to produce the sound through or change the sound not only with the tightening of the lips and loosening,
as with the others.
That's correct.
But also
also with the slide. Manipulating the slides. The slides are in what we term as 7 positions. So when the slide is in here, like this is position 1, and so on, and the 7.
Okay.
Now the mouthpiece is larger.
Much. Significantly larger than, than the trumpet.
Mouthpiece, or even the cone-shaped French horn mouthpiece.
Yeah, very much bigger.
And
is that the same humming
Buzzing.
Buzzing,
Yes.
yeah.
Funny you should say buzzing. Humming. When a few years back in training my beginning band, there was one youngster, and he was playing the trombone, right? And we were about to play. We selected our instruments.
Yes.
It was time to play our first note, and the little boy picked up the trombone, and and his hand went up. My trombone is busted.
Broken.
What's going on here? You see what happens though if you don't buzz.
Then nothing happens.
No. So if I just blow the air, as I would do on wind instrument,
Nothing
nothing
happens.
right?
Yeah.
So the buzzing is essential.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That does, when you do that, it sounds significantly different than the other instruments.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a bigger mouthpiece.
Absolutely.
Cup shape. And this is a bass instrument. So the bigger the instrument, the lower the sound.
The lower, the richer the sound.
Absolutely. So, so the 7 position.
Right.
All right.
That's exciting. That's wonderful. Yeah.
And if the player's not careful,
Uh-huh.
if he reaches out to a little bit further, then
Yeah.
so that could be a problem.
That could be an issue, especially when marching.
Yeah, you don't want to hit anyone in front of you.
Why would you pick up the trombone instead of the other instruments if you were choosing an instrument to play?
Well, so a lot of the kids, they find it intriguing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is cool. There's no valves, and this looks weird. It's the slide. So, but I have to be careful, and I have to consider the arm length.
Yes, of the child especially.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's important as band directors.
Can you get to all 7?
Right,
Yeah.
we take that into consideration as band directors.
And if you were to uncoil this, it would be about how long?
Oh, this will be about, I would say about 18, maybe 18 feet.
18
Yes,
feet, so
yeah.
again, significantally
Sure.
larger.
Yes. And brass instruments in general are the longest of all instruments in the orchestra. For that reason, when you uncoil them, they're
Yeah.
much longer.
Much longer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just move on to this,
Sure,
this
okay.
behemoth to your left, which is none other than the tuba.
Tuba.
I always think of the tuba as that big instrument, the guy in the band who just was the biggest guy.
Okay.
He didn't really have to even be too smart. He just needed to be big enough and
Okay.
strong enough to hold the tuba.
Yes.
About how much does that weigh?
Oh, wow. This one, it's about 25 pounds.
Okay, yeah. So if you're in marching band, you've got to be able to walk with the
Yes.
tuba.
And there are
Yeah.
others.
Yes.
And as with some of the other instruments, each brass instrument has its own family.
Right. So
Yeah.
there are several types of tubas.
Sure, you have the sousaphone. which
This
much-
is what kind of tuba?
This is just a standard tuba. This is a tuba in C.
And then there's
There's an E-flat tuba, euphonium. There's a sousaphone.
a sousaphone. What's that?
That's the one you will see in the marching band, which goes around the neck
Yes.
and up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The really pretty tuba.
Sure.
So this mouthpiece, first of all, this is just the biggest of all of them.
Yes.
It seems. Yeah.
That's true. And so, again, the same concept applies
Right.
in terms of buzzing.
Much deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly is. So it's a big cup-shaped mouthpiece.
Yeah. And that fits in, I don't even know where that's at. If you compare it to the tuba, I mean to the
trumpet
the
mouthpiece?
trumpet, it's so
Much
much bigger.
smaller,
So
certainly.
then you put that on. Yeah.
Okay. So the tuba is the lowest of all the brass instruments. In
Right.
fact, for the lowest of all the instruments in
Really?
the orchestra, for that
Okay.
matter. Sure.
And it makes that oompa,
Sure.
that it keeps time.
Yes. And
And it's got the valves.
Sure, the pistons, right? And same concept in terms of tightening the lips, the embouchure for the higher notes,
Yes.
loosening for the lower notes. All right.
That is great. Can you do the oompa for us?
Oompa.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love it. I always think of that oompa sound when you think of
Okay.
the tuba. Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, the guy just needs to be big enough to hold the instrument. He
Sure.
does, and just play a few notes.
Certainly, definitely.
And why would we choose the tuba to be our instrument? Is there any other than the fact that we're very strong?
It is needed
Yes.
in the orchestra. I don't get a lot of students volunteering usually for the tuba.
Yeah.
So
It's difficult to ride on the train with the tuba.
size, of course.
Yeah. Size and weight.
Sure. For that reason, a lot of colleges offer scholarships for
Really?
tuba players. Yeah, certain
right.
instruments we don't have a lot of players. Tuba,
Tuba's one of them.
absolutely.
Wow.
So
So
French horn as well.
really? So
Sure.
mom and dad, if you're looking for an instrument,
Certainly, definitely.
think about the tuba or the French horn for college scholarship.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are others as well.
Yeah. What others are there?
Bassoon, the bassoon.
Bassoon.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Woodwind.
Yes.
Why so with the bassoon?
Not too many people play the
Like
play
they're
these instruments.
just not
They
drawn
don't
to
gravitate
it.
to sure. They don't gravitate towards the tuba or the bassoon
or the French horn.
Sure.
Okay,
There are
scholarship
a
opportunities.
lot of violinists, a lot
Yeah,
of
it's true. Everyone
piano.
plays the traditional instruments, the violin, the clarinet.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. So
Sure.
if you can get a college scholarship out of it, all the better.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
So, Dr. Peter Archer, if someone wants more information about any of these instruments,
Yes.
where can they contact you?
I can be contacted at brasswins253 at AOL.com.
Brass Winds
Yes.
253
Yes.
at AOL.com. They can email you there.
Sure.
And you also have a jazz band of your own, a band of your
Yes.
own. Tell us about that.
The band is Just Friends, and it's 8 of us. And we're just
And you're
friends.
just friends.
And there are 2 of my former students that are
Former
part of-
students from middle school,
from
from
my
the middle school.
Yes, they're part
Wow.
of the band. Yes. Yes.
And if people want more information about that, how can they contact
You
you?
can contact us through justfriends at AOL.com.
Okay, justfriends@aol.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Archer. Let me tell you, if you want some sass, go to the brass, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I had to go to mass because last night I was out with the brass. No, really, don't call my mother. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching On the Brass. The brass section is just one of the best in the orchestra. And thank you also to Dr. Peter Archer for joining us today on the Brass. More information, you can always hit me up on my website, www.gail-lewis.com. And of course, you can always find me on the Brass. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We're going to see you again real soon.
Sure.
Dr. Peter Archer, would you please play us out?
Sure. Why
Thanks.
not?